Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Let me ask you a quick question here, folks. If a Democrat campaign headquarters office, say a Hillary for President campaign office, in a sizable left-wing university town had been blown up, you think you'd hear about it? Nothing but that kind of, right? If a Democrat headquarters, a Hillary campaign headquarters had been blown up, do you think the drive-bys would be blaming Hillary's rhetoric for it? Kind of doubt that. Do you think that that may be all you would be hearing about if a Democrat headquarters were blown up? Do you think that you would hear anybody say, well, you know, Hillary's responsible. She's out there saying all these irresponsible things, the Hillary campaign? No. And then they'd be tracking down every potential Republican suspect, starting with Trump, and then Trump's family, and then Trump's campaign staff, and then some of Trump's redneck supporters, and some of these whoever. They would be devoting every waking moment to finding out if the Tea Party did it, if some conservative madcap group did it, if somebody on a hate crime list did it. They would be, and then they would be wringing their hands, and they'd be talking about the threat to democracy posed by all of this. And if Hillary Clinton were claiming that the election were rigged, do you think that they would be investigating her claim? If Hillary Clinton or Tim Kaine, the I, or anybody else on the Democrat side were complaining of any aspect of the election being rigged, or if it's discovered that the media was dramatically in favor of Donald Trump, do you think that they would be talking about it? Damn right they would. And if Hillary were claiming the election were rigged, they would assume it is rigged, and they'd be looking for Republican suspects. And Obama would be enacting the Justice Department to conduct an investigation. The Civil Rights Division would be impaneled, and they would pull out all stops to go out and find out who, in fact, is rigging, and then they would find somebody, just like they found the guy that produced the video that caused the outright uprising in Benghazi. They would find somebody, they would charge somebody, they'd try to put them in jail right now, they would find their family, they're doing none of that. And yet both of those things have happened. Except it was a Republican campaign headquarters, a Trump headquarter office in North Carolina, in the same county where you'll find the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and just across the border boundary line from Duke University. You can't find any reference to this outside the so-called conservative media. The drive-by media are not concerned with it at all. What they are concerned with is Trump's allegation the election is rigged. They are acting like that this is the greatest threat that our country has faced recently. This unhinged allegation challenging the legitimacy, the authenticity, the sacrosanct nature of our elections. And Trump's out there accusing them of being rigged. And the drive-bys are righteously indignant. They are offended, and they can't get over it. Meanwhile, people are wondering if Julian Assange is alive. Supposedly his connection to the Internet has been terminated. I think Julian Assange is alive. But I'm going to tell you there's a 1% out there that everybody needs to refocus on. And it's been exposed by WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks has exposed a vast left-wing conspiracy made up of the Democrat Party, Wall Street, and the media. That's the top 1% that Americans should worry about. Instead of the top 1% of the rich, which is a standard ploy every 2 years, every election year. The Democrats yank out of their playbook. The rich aren't paying their fair share, but the 1%, the top 1% that Americans should worry about, as exposed by WikiLeaks, this vast left-wing conspiracy. Democrats, Wall Street media. Now back to this Trump charge, the election is rigged. Mr. Snerdley, interrupt for a moment your screening of calls and then ask you, off the top of your head, what do you think Trump is talking about when he says the election is rigged? What is he talking about? Exactly. He's talking about the media. He's talking about the fact that 95% of the media is stacked against him. He's talking about all the dirty tricks the media are playing. He's talking about that. Rudy Giuliani is talking about the dead vote. It can't be denied Dead people vote, and they vote Democrat. They did it for JFK in Illinois and West Virginia in 1960. But the righteous indignation coming from the media and the Democrats as though some precious thing has been violated here that's just unacceptable. I even saw on TV today a Republican official lamenting this, that this is such an unnecessary and such an unfortunate assault on one of the greatest God-given acts that humanity engages in. That is the presidential election. And to taint it this way is, you know, folks, I actually think this so much stuff seems out of proportion. By the way, welcome, Rush Limbaugh. I didn't tell you my name because you know who I am. And I didn't tell you the phone number because you already know what that is. 800-282-2882. Everything, the proportion here is out of whack. For a bunch of people that think they've got this election in the bag and it's over and Trump's toast, these people are acting, I don't know, like they don't think that. And look, I'm not the guy sitting here trying to offer you false optimism. I don't engage in that. Something's not right here. I can't put my finger on it. The left, for having something in the bag, they're not happy. They're not pre-celebrating. They're not pre-popping champagne corks. They're out there angrier than ever. They're acting, which is not new. I mean, they're angry all the time. And they do get angry as they succeed. It's one of the craziest psychological things about them. That there's a guy out there now as an account on social media. By the way, I didn't get social media into this top 1% of deceit, this intricately woven web of deceit. You have the Democrats, Wall Street media, and social media. I would throw them that that's the top 1% that everybody needs to be concerned about. There is an account on social media from a guy claiming to work for the post office who is bragging about how he is destroying Trump absentee ballots. Let me ask you this. If a postal worker went on social media, I don't care where it was, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, you name it, and was bragging about destroying Hillary absentee ballots, do you think they'd be trying to hunt this guy down and put him in jail with the guy who made the video about that started Benghazi? They wouldn't be stopping. They'd find this guy, they'd hunt him down, they'd give him to Marilyn Mosby and say, have at him. Charge him here, charge him there. Put him in the back of a Baltimore police van and let's see what he looks like when he comes out. Whatever it takes. They would be unearthing everything to find out who this guy is. I don't know if it's. I'm just what Trump is talking about with rigged election is the without doubt completely in the tank for Hillary media, which isn't media again, and it's not even journalism anymore, and that's the nature of rigged. Now, in terms of polling places and things being done with early voting and this absentee ballot stuff here being destroyed, Trump absentee ballots being destroyed. How would you know, by the way, an absentee ballot cast for who? How would you know? How would you know which ones to destroy, which ones not? I've never seen an absentee ballot. I've never filed one. I've never done one. I've never been at the voting office when they come. So I don't know what they look like. How? So you'd have to open it. You'd have to open the absentee. So you got a postal worker out there admitting that he's opening absentee ballots that have been mailed in, and he's just destroying the ones. I guess. But then what happens when he opens one for Hillary? He's got to reseal it, make it. I guess they don't care. It doesn't matter. As long as there's Hillary on it, what do the Democrats care where it came from? Could be postmarked Mars. They'll take it. Anyway, how are you, folks? I can't tell you so many people I know, and I heard Newt say this on TV over the weekend. He thinks that, and I've got friends, smart, engaged friends who think that everybody's going to go to bed on election night prepared for a massive surprise and shock and wake up to find one, and that is Trump winning. And they're basing it on real evidence. I call it evidence. They're basing it on things that they see. Trump's rallies. By the way, in the stack of stuff today, I have a story from somebody. I think it's at thehill.com. If it's not The Hill, it's something like that. Anyway, a writer there, actually went to a Trump event, wanting to document that it's a bunch of toothless Gummer deliverance types out there shouting all kinds of insults at Hillary. Basically, hayseed Hicks, combined IQ at a Trump rally of a pencil eraser is what they think. And the guy or the girl who is stunned, shocked at what she saw or he saw in terms of the substance, in terms of Trump supporters. In other words, it was another glaring example of how the media creates these images that they then believe, and then when confronted with reality, they are in absolute shock and don't believe what they see. And in this case, the writer saw a Trump rally that was at total variance, what he or she expected, on the plus side. In the audio soundbite roster, we've got an info babe who went somewhere and talked to a woman that loves this program. And you know what? I've got to find out why. I've got to find out why this woman and the reporter that you'll hear in the soundbites coming up was shocked at what she had heard. So the Trump rallies continue to be huge. I mean, I can't tell the number of emails I get from people who are either at these rallies or watching them on the web and who say, if the media were covering these, Trump would be up by 10 points. If the media were televising these rallies with what Trump is saying and the way the public is reacting to him, then it would be an entirely different campaign. And by contrast, Hillary is in hibernation. Hillary's hiding, can't find anybody that can find her. She's not out there doing personal appearances anywhere. The outward signs, you get the polling data. By the way, Washington Post ABC poll, latest one out, Hillary up by 4. That is margin of error. In fact, you could call it a dead heat given the margin of error in the Washington Post poll. And I think this is, in fact, when ABC, Washington Post reports their poll, they discredit their own poll in a way by calling our attention to other polls that show Hillary much farther ahead. But this poll has to have some of the people in the media distressed. Where we are 3 weeks out, and the ABC Washington Post poll shows Hillary leading Trump by 4. Even if that were outside the margin of error, stop and think of this now. This is 4 points. And here's what the Washington Post says. The poll was conducted during one of the most tumultuous periods of Trump's candidacy, after the release of a video in which he spoke about taking sexual advantage of women, and during a time when numerous women have accused him of sexual misconduct. Nonetheless, the controversy appeared to have had only a minimal impact on his overall support. Let me translate that for you. We thought we had him this time. We had made him out to be the next Bill Cosby, not Clinton, sorry. The timing was perfect, the same kind of October surprise we used to destroy Romney, Bob Dole, Herman Cain, you named it. We turned that goody two-shoes, Mitt Romney, into a monster. If it wasn't for 9/11, we could have taken out Bush 43 like we did his dad. They can't, but in other words, if Trump is at 4 points after withstanding this barrage, then they have to be scratching their heads. Now, I want to remind you of one more thing. We're getting close now to the period of time where the pollsters are going to have to start showing the race as it is. Now, I'm of the opinion they're not yet. I'm of the opinion that they're still using their polls to make news, to shape public opinion, rather than reflect it. But as we get closer to the election, we're not there yet, by the way, but as we get closer to the election, all of these polling companies are going to want to be right when it's all over. And so the polls that we get a week prior, the last polls before the election from all of these different outfits, probably will be closer to what they really think is going to happen. And because they have their reputations to protect after the election is over. Of course, they may not care about that anymore. It's such a one-sided, nothing's going to happen to them if they blow it. But there still is this professional reputation. So we'll see if other polls start to tighten and get closer as we near Election Day. But the conventional wisdom is that Trump's toast. He's had it. He's unhinged. He won't stop talking about these women. He won't stop reacting. He won't stay on issues. Except when you go to one of his rallies, he's totally on issues. And the people are as revved as they've ever been. And more people are showing up at Trump rallies than ever before. And more people are being turned away because they can't fit in than ever before. And everybody tells us you can't judge it by that, Rush. That's not scientific data. That's anecdotal. It's just people talking. You can't. Well, it's not just people talking. I mean, we see it. Yeah, but we don't know who those people are. We don't know how many of them are actually Hillary supporters that are just rubbernecking. You know, I doubt that is the case. Anyway, we have audio soundbites. Obama, once again, I am living rent-free in Obama's head. Well, I didn't even know about it till this. Well, I knew, but Catherine walked in, what was it? Friday night. Said, I guess you just, Obama can't stop talking about it. So what did he say? And she told me what he said. I said, I haven't heard that anywhere. Cookie didn't have that. I haven't heard that anywhere. She said, well, I just heard it. I'm just not a surprise. I hear it all the time. Not a word of it over the weekend. I got soundbite roster. And it was Thursday night in Columbia. Here, play it real quick and we'll go to the break. Audio soundbite number 1. Here's Obama again, and this is at a Democrat Party dinner. So kind of a fundraiser where he speaks honestly.
This is in the swamp of crazy that has been fed over and over and over and over again. It's a whole kind of ecosystem, you know. And look, if I watched Fox News, I wouldn't vote for me. I understand. If I was listening to Rush Limbaugh, I'd say, man, that's terrible.
Got to go to a break, folks. Be right back. Okay, so ABC News, Washington Post has the race at Hillary +4. NBC News is just out with a new poll with the Wall Street Journal. Hillary Clinton ahead of Trump by double digits. It's 11 points with just over 3 weeks until Election Day. This according to a brand new national NBC News and Wall Street Journal poll conducted entirely after the second debate. 4-way race. Clinton holds an 11-point lead over Trump among likely voters, 48 to 37. Libertarian Gary Johnson, 7%. Jill Stein at 2%. In a two-way contest without Johnson and Stein, Clinton is ahead by 10, 51 to 41. Look, I have a little bit of a question. I mean, it's obviously rhetorical, but you know, the drive-bys are prohibited from announcing the winners in various states on Election Day till the polls close, right? They observed this. And it started back in 1980, by the way. I'll tell you why. My question is, how come they can run article after article after article claiming that Hillary has won certain states already when early voting is already taking place? But you can't report on election returns before a state is closed, yet early voting doesn't have any prohibition. Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day, Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone at 800-282-2882. Folks, I want to remind you again that what is happening here with this obviously out-of-balance media coverage of Trump. I mean, I'm not trying to do a see, I told you so, but I have mentioned countless times that this is what it's always going to look like whenever an outsider attempts to defeat and oust the establishment. It's going to look like this no matter who the nominee is, if the nominee is a genuine outsider. The establishment owns the establishment. They are the media. They are Wall Street. They are some major corporations in terms of as donors. And they are elected officials in both parties. And they have worked hard. And it's been, the establishment's been around as long as there's been humanity. Every organization of human beings has its elite members. From a town to a town council to a sports team there are always the special few elites. And they know it. And they work hard to protect it. And they work very hard building walls to keep people out of it, particularly people who want to overthrow it. So this is what it's always going to look like. The people who are members of the elite 1% here that make up the establishment are going to circle the wagons and join forces, and they're just not going to trust their fate to a normal, everyday, standard operating procedure election taking place under the auspices of democracy. They're just not going to. They didn't get power by randomly winning things. They didn't keep their power by hoping that random events continued to fall in their favor. They got power by taking it. They keep power by engineering the outcome of events that keeps them in power. It's the nature. You could almost say the human nature, the psychological aspects of this. So it's understandable in that sense that they're not just going to sit by and watch a campaign happen and then deal with whatever the results are, especially if they lose. They're not even going to give that a chance. They're going to go to every length possible to eliminate any possibility that any outsider is going to succeed. So they have, in this case, done so. And they joined forces, and it's all out destruction. Personal, career, political, you name it, all out destruction of anybody who joins the outsider in this case, Trump's effort. Now, even within the establishment, you have groups. Even within the establishment, you've got your top dog ruling class and then people that are not yet at that level, but they're still in the group. And they want to stay in the group. And they want to climb the ladder that exists in that group to get to the pinnacle. Some of them do. In this case, I'm describing Republican members of the establishment. They want to stay there. They don't want to be ousted. They don't want to find that. That's why they're not in any way, shape, manner, or form supporting Trump, because they don't want outsiders to take over the vaunted positions of power that run the world. And that's what these positions do. The people in the establishment, the elite establishment in the United States, not only run America, they run the world in consort with other establishment members around the world, United Nations and various other friendly nation states. And they all circle the wagons for each other, and they will protect each other when they're under assault. When they have staved off an assault, they'll go back to internecine battles among their own selves and their own group, but they're circling the wagon. This is what it looks like. It was never going to be easy. It was never going to be fair. The media was never going to roll over and just let this happen. They're part of it. The media is part of what I call the media establishment complex, or the top 1%. And I think a lot of people would have crumbled by now if they had been dished the treatment Trump has gotten. I think a lot of people would have caved and said, you know what, I've got a life after all this is all over, and I don't want these people destroying everything I'm doing here. And they would have caved, they would have quit, they would have ceded or what have you. Trump has not done that. And I think the establishment is kind of surprised and shocked and little not sure what's going on here. Because the one thing they know is that their hold on power is, as this is demonstrating, They are a minority. They govern against the will of the people. Once it is discovered who and what they are, it's very obvious that they are not us and that they do not share our concerns and that they're not nationalistic Americans the way we are. They view America in an entirely different way as part of a global organization and arrangement. And their power goes way beyond their positions in the United States. So here comes an outsider, and they're going to destroy the outsider, whoever he or she is. This is what it looks like. And it is always going to look like this until it happens. And if it does happen, if an outsider ever really wins, I shudder to think what the aftermath is going to be. We'll deal with that should it occur. But I just want to remind everybody that's what this is. There's no pretense of fairness, and there never was going to be. There's no pretense of objectivity, and there was never going to be. There's no pretense of anything but rigged. You know, in the sense that Trump means that he's right. When I say rigged, the establishment is using every asset it has to ensure that they win this. They're not leaving it up to just a vote. Like you're taught in Civics 101 that elections are taken and that take place and the winners win, the losers lose, and you have campaigns and fundraising. They're not leaving it up to any of that. And they were never going to. So in that sense, if the powerful, using every aspect of their power to hold on to their power equals rigging the game, then, I mean, there's no doubt that that's happening. But it's also not surprising. Shouldn't be, anyway. I mean, many of the people in the establishment are not there because of the democratic process. The elected ones are. But there are vastly many more people within the elite, the establishment, that have never been elected to anything. They got there an entirely different way. They stay there entirely different ways. And many of them have much more power over elected officials, as we are seeing. I'm going to give you an example of that after we take a brief time out. Don't go away. You'll enjoy this. Hi, how are you? Welcome back. Rush Limbaugh, making more sense than anything anybody else out there happens to be saying. And saying in a couple of minutes what most people take a week to say. It's great to have you here. I want to go back to this Obama soundbite a minute. I didn't get a chance. I just had enough time to play that for you. Again, now remember, it's at a fundraiser. Obama says different things at fundraisers than he says in public. He does not usually mention my name. Sometimes he will, Fox News. But he's out making a speech to the general public, whether it's a campaign appearance or not. Very seldom will he mention my name because he does not want to elevate me and amplify me or promote me. But to a Democrat fundraiser where I equal money, Democrats hear my name and they write checks. They have, within their circles, quote-unquote, demonized me to the point that there's genuine fear that my ideas will prevail. So Obama mentions me, and they write checks. Donors donate big when my name is mentioned. That's what he does here. But I want to ask what he's talking about at the end of this.
This is in the swamp of crazy that has been fed over and over and over and over again. It's a whole kind of ecosystem, you know. And look, if I watched Fox News, I wouldn't vote for me. I understand. If I was listening to Rush Limbaugh, I'd say, man, this is terrible.
I wouldn't like me either if I listened to Rush Limbaugh. What is it that I'm saying? I mean, that people wouldn't like him for? Is it the fact I accuse them all of lying about Obamacare? The fact I point out all the lying about Benghazi, all the lying about the Iran deal? Talk about how the stimulus was not a stimulus? I mean, what is it specifically that I say that Obama could understand him not being liked? I'm not making anything up, and he knows it. He's just using this to raise money. I don't think he cares. Well, that may not be true. It's just from his ego standpoint. But that's why he throws my name out. You got to make book on the fact that when he does it, he's talking at Democrat donors. I consider this a great honor, my friends, that I equal check writing. They're so afraid of me that they go out there and write money, write checks. There is a bombshell in the WikiLeaks document dump that has been discovered. It has just been made available. Now, to you and me, it's a bombshell. I need to qualify. It's not going to be a bombshell to anybody else. It's not. It's not, by the way, anything that you haven't considered. It's just that this is confirmation. What the WikiLeaks email dump, these are the leaked emails of Podesta from the Hillary campaign, actually via email chains, shows the Clinton campaign openly debating in emails how to cover up the Benghazi emails. And it shows them talking about giving the story, the whole Benghazi story, to a friendly reporter so that they can shape the narrative before Republicans on the Benghazi committee realize how explosive the real story is. In other words, this email document dump indicates that the Clinton campaign knows their Benghazi story is a bunch of horse hockey, that the video and all that is a bunch of horse hockey. They know how bad it is. And they want to get a false narrative out about this as soon as they can before the Republicans on the committee find out just how bad it is, and before the Republicans on the committee maybe find out how much collusion's been going on here. So they gave it to a friendly reporter to shape the narrative before committee Republicans were able to learn about it and realize how explosive the real story is. It just got to me, and that's a summary of what it is. I haven't been able to print it out and get into the actual verbatim aspects of the email chain. That's what I meant the other day. This show prep is almost getting to the point of being pointless because it just continues while the program is happening. You got to be flexible and fluid to be able to incorporate it as it flows in. Also, just now, John King. We're talking about polls. We got the ABC News Washington Post poll, which is taken after the debate, second debate, and with all the allegations from these women. Many of these allegations, by the way, being blown to smithereens. Many of the allegations from women saying Trump abused them have been blown to smithereens. Drive-by's not covering any of that. They're sticking with the original theme, which is that Trump is a reprobate, and it doesn't matter what Bill Clinton did. The NBC News Wall Street Journal poll is out showing Hillary up 11. Same time frame as the Washington Post ABC poll. It shows Hillary up by 4. Here is, just moments ago, John King, Inside Politics on CNN.
Battleground state of Ohio, good news for Donald Trump. Trump up 48% to 44%. North Carolina, poll shows Hillary Clinton with the narrowest of lead, a 1-point lead. So statistically, a dead heat. Go west to Nevada. This one's a bit of a surprise. 46-44, again, a very narrow Clinton lead. The statisticians would say that's a dead heat. If you look at those numbers right there and you're a Trump supporter, well, after a tough couple of weeks, reason to see the glass is half full, right? But if you look at the other map, the electoral map, Clinton's state-by-state advantage, it's still pretty overwhelming heading into the stretch. The hard truth for Trump is she can afford to lose all 3 of those states and still win the election.
So you see how this works. They have new polling data. Great news for Trump in all these states, but it doesn't matter because Hillary is still going to win. And I think they're not sure of that. In fact, I know they're not sure of that because that's what's shaping the way they are continuing to report on this. And if you look at the polling data, there's an interesting aspect to all of these polls, and that is that Hillary Clinton is not at 50% in any of them. And nobody's talking about that aspect, I think largely because in many of these polls now there are 4 people. You have Hillary and Trump. And then this, Gary Johnson and Jill Stein. So you get 4 people there, divvies the vote up. I know Bill Clinton didn't win with 50%, but they're making Hillary out to be slam dunk, massive landslide winner. She's not at 50%. She's back below it. She has been at 50% or over. And they really ballyhooed that. I think, what was it? The Reuters Ipsos, when she was up 11 and had her 51%, they just went bonkers. They were ecstatic, 51%, but she's back below it now. And to people that pay attention to polling, that's weird. That doesn't jibe with somebody running away with this. And the fact that she is projected to be this landslide winner and she can't get to 50%, I think might give some of them on her side pause, might concern some of them, because she's not demonstrating any upward movement. You might say that whatever polls are being taken show is that Trump is losing ground, but she's not gaining any. She's not likable. She doesn't have charismatic type personality. I don't know, folks. I don't know anything. It just doesn't seem that the people on the winning side of this, who think they've already won it, and in a landslide, they just don't seem happy and confident about it. I don't know. No, I did not forget the example I was going to get. It was just overwhelmed by late arriving show prep. I finally got to meet this data on how they doctored the Benghazi data for a friendly reporter. Finally got that, so we'll try to make sense of that when we get back here. James O'Keefe with another video that I just learned about. So we are fluid here, folks. You got to hang in there and just be tough. Okay, we got a new poll. The Monmouth poll. Monmouth College poll just came out. Hillary is up 12 in this poll. So here are the three polls that we have in the last couple of days. ABC News, Washington Post, Hillary up 4. NBC, Wall Street Journal, Hillary up 11. These are all likely voter polls. And the Monmouth College poll has Hillary up 12. Greetings, my friends. Welcome back. Great to have you. El Rushbo behind the golden EIB microphone. The telephone number is 800-282-2882, and the email address lrushbo@eibnet.com. Let me get into a little bit more detail about what I mean when I say this, what it looks like when an outsider attempts to wrest control of the establishment away from the genuinely powerful. I mean, those who are really, really powerful in our country. And it didn't, the politicians like to slough blame. Oh, Wall Street and these big corporations. No. It's the political class that has all the power. It's a mutual admiration society. I mean, the wealthy donate, keep them afloat, keep them in business. So it's a shared thing. And they have their internecine fights, even during the best of times. But they unify when there is an assault against them. And this is a serious assault. And what I mean when I say that this is what it looks like when an outsider tries to win is this is what a genuine political fight looks like. And to understand this and to follow me here, you have to, you in the base are not going to have any trouble. But I think we will all agree on our side that in the 2010, let's start 2008. The 2008 presidential election, followed by the 2010 midterms. Well, before I get specific, let me give you the umbrella. People in the Republican base have seen over the last 8 years that people they elected they thought were going to take the fight to Obama and the Democrats and stop it, or try to, didn't. And the people of the Republican base who elected Republicans, voted for them on this basis, have finally wised up. There isn't any fight. There isn't any opposition to Obama and the Democrats. Not on the stimulus, not on Obamacare, although they, to be fair, in Obamacare, they didn't even have the numbers. They couldn't have stopped Obamacare legislatively. But since Obamacare passed, they have promised over and over to repeal it, to try to repeal it, to do, and haven't. 2010 midterms, we were told, well, look, we can't do anything if we don't have numbers. You've got to give us the House. That's the only way we're ever going to be able to stop Obama. So people showed up in droves. It was a landslide Republican victory in the 2010 midterms featuring this new thing called the Tea Party. And these people went to the polls in record numbers, and they fully expected that the Republicans were going to fight back or try to stop the advance of the Obama agenda. It didn't happen. 2012 rolls around. The Republicans nominate milquetoast. The establishment gets the nominee they want. Not any pretense of fighting back. Not a whole lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of Republican base stayed home and didn't even show up. Anywhere between 2 and 4 million fewer voters in 2012 on the Republican side than in 2008. In 2014, Republicans said, look, Obama still has the White House. Yeah, you gave us the House, but he's still got the White House. We can't stop him. We need the Senate. 2014, landslide Republican turnout, landslide Republican win. Between 2010 and 2014, the Democrats lost over 1,000 seats in the House, in the Senate, state legislatures, governorships. It was massive. Still, the Republicans who were elected on the promise that they were going to fight back, try to stop, didn't. And that's all she wrote. Republicans had done everything that had been asked of them. Republican voters had been, we need the House? Fine. We gave it to them. We need the Senate? Fine. And even after they got the Senate, we did, well, Obama's still in the White House. There's really nothing we can do. Because we don't have a veto-proof majority. So no matter what we did, no matter how many things they asked us to do, and we did, they fell back on the it's still not enough. And there wasn't any serious opposition to the leftist Obama agenda. And so here we are in 2016, and the Republicans had what they thought was the greatest field of potential candidates in a long time. 15 Republican candidates from across the spectrum, led by the popular favorite Jeb Bush. And this was going to be the day. This was going to be the year. This was going to be the moment in time where we're finally going to get it all. We're going to have the House and the Senate and win the White House and get our committee chairmanships and hold on to them and what have you. And the Republican base said, not this time. And they did what? They nominated somebody as far from the political scene as you could get. They nominated somebody that the political class gave no chance. They nominated somebody that had no ties whatsoever to anything that had happened previously. No elective office held, no participation on any policy, no fingerprints, no nothing. And more than that, they elected a brawler. They didn't elect somebody who disagreed simply. They elected a brawler. They elected a fighter. The Republican base changed its approach. It's not just that they chose an outsider. This is why I wanted to expand on my theory here. The Republican base decided to send a brawler, a knockdown, drag-out street fighter, something unseen in the modern era of politics. And again, the reason the Republican base decided this was needed is because we, the Republican base, we know the left, and we knew what our nominee would face. We knew that this was the kind of campaign that whoever our nominee was going to face. And as I said, anybody else would have folded by now. And by fold, I don't mean quit, but would have moderated his tone, would have diminished and fallen back to the point that he would be indistinguishable from any other Republican. And the establishment would be supporting him, and he'd lose in a landslide. That's what I mean. Any other Republican nominee under this barrage would have wilted long ago, probably during the primaries. And the left is used to that. They are used to neutering Republican opponents. They are used to taking them out early. They are used to being able to mock them and destroy them and render them impotent months away from an election. This has not happened because the Republican base said, screw it. After all of these campaigns with all of these assurances that they were going to fight back and stop, none of it happened. It was time to send a brawler. Now, I'm not describing an actual thought process that happened. I'm talking about Trump gets in, is the person he is, campaigns the way he did, and the Republican base said, yeah, this is what we're talking about, and overwhelmingly got behind him. And they got behind him not because of the usual reasons you get behind a candidate. Character and political experience and a record that you can examine. None of that mattered. All that mattered was somebody was going to happily and cheerfully take the arrows and throw them right back. Somebody was going to take all the shots and fire right back and not put up with any of it in defense of the voters. This is the thing I think that the Republican base hasn't yet figured out, is that all of these attacks on Republican politicians are also attacks on Republican voters, and they go undefended, they go unanswered, and people know that they are not these crazy things. People, they are not reprobates, they're not racist, sexist, bigot, homophobes, and they're tired of not being represented as such. Trump comes along, and it is happy days are here again. The establishment Republican candidates did not have a chance. So this is it. This is now what a political fight looks like. The forces on the left have had to unify because they have never faced anything like this in recent years. They are used to a docile and conforming and embarrassed Washington Generals type of opposition in the Republican Party. But the Republican base knew what any Republican nominee was going to get. If they could tarnish and destroy and demonize Mitt Romney, they could do it to anybody. And so it didn't matter. Whoever was nominated was going to get the treatment that Trump is getting now. The Republican base wanted a fighter. They wanted a fighter, a brawler, and somebody was not going to give up and cave in and become like the Democrats in order to sue for peace. And thus, we have a genuine fight. This is what it looks like. It is in the sewer because that's where the left has taken it. We are in the sewer and the gutter because that's where the Hillary campaign and the media have taken it and are taking it and leaving it there. We are in the gutter, we are in the sewer, we are in the swamp because that's where the Democrats have taken it. It's not because of who Donald Trump is. We are in the sewer, we are in the gutter because that's the only way the Democrats know how to win, and they have not faced this in your lifetime or mine. Well, I always have to exempt Reagan. Reagan befuddled them and won 2 landslides. But we have a nominee who, for once, has no problem counterpunching. Wherever they hit him from, he hits back, whether it's in the sewer. You know, so they're out there saying that Trump is this and that, and he's a horrible, rotten guy. And they're saying, okay, well, you guys have got this election rigged. You guys are taking unfair advantage. You're rigged. And they think that Trump's the reprobate. They're the ones that have taken us to the sewer. The Democrats, the media, the establishment have taken this campaign right. Maybe it's so low they look up and see the sewer. But we're there, not because that's who Trump is. We are there because that's where the Democrats have taken the campaign. Because the Democrats can never go high. The Democrats can never elevate. Here the Democrats have a chance because of what they've done. They have a chance to become the party of optimism and good cheer, and they can't do it because it's not who they are. So we're in the gutter. We're in the sewer. We are in the filth and the muck and the yuck because they have taken us there. And we've got a guy who's punching back from the filth, from the muck, from the sewer, whatever. And the Democrat Party and the media have not had to put up with this. They've not had to experience this. They're used to people rolling over for them. They're used to the opposition kowtowing, quitting, resigning, admitting whatever allegations are made. As such, I don't think anybody can predict what's going to happen because there's not a blueprint for this. And that's why I think the way the left is behaving, the Democrats and all this outrage over Trump and the Republican headquarters gets blown up and it's Trump's fault. Can you imagine if a Hillary campaign was blown up? Do you think they'd be in the news every day? And you think they'd be trying to find some Trump voter that didn't have any teeth to blame it on? You know damn well they would. It'd be the front page story since it happened. But since it's a Trump headquarters that blew up, ho-hum, no care, no concern. In fact, yeah, kind of makes sense. With the stuff Trump's been saying, yeah. As little Brian Stelter at CNN said, Trump's rhetoric. Trump's own words are responsible for his headquarters being firebombed. Sorry, we know that's caca. So they don't know what to do with a brawler like this. They don't know how to factor it. They don't know how to poll it. Hillary doesn't know how to deal with it. She's in hibernation. She chooses not to deal with it. The evidence is abundant that Mrs. Clinton is among the most corrupt. And if you want to talk about unfit and unqualified people ever seek the office, she is it. And the fact that they cannot capitalize on what they claim Trump is, the fact that they can't get her positives up, they can't get her negatives down, the reason that they are not acting like they are reporting it's over. It's a landslide. Look at these polls. Trump has just alienated everybody. You can't turn on television without hearing that every woman in America hates Donald Trump. But then you watch them on TV and you read what they write and you listen to them talk and they don't reflect the good cheer, the happiness, the contentment that you would think real knowledge that it's over would bring you. They are continuing to hammer and destroy because that's who they are. Number one. And number two, they are not sure how to. Believe me, they can see these people at the Trump rallies, and they can sit there all day and say, well, that's just nothing scientific about that. It's not anecdotal. Of course, look at who these people are. They're just madcap extremists. Of course they're going to show up. Meanwhile, Hillary and Tim Kaine can't draw flies. And that's normal, too, they tell us. But it isn't normal. My long point here is that this is exactly what this was going to be. It was going to be a fight. This is a fight. The Democrats are not used to this kind of opposition and a fight. And the people that poll it don't know how to poll it. And they're not quite sure of what's going on in the country right now. They don't know how many of these people that are eager beaver supporters of Trump they really are. They really don't know. And they're terrified that there's a whole slew of people who haven't voted in 20 years are going to vote for the first time and they can't find them to poll. I have to take a break, folks. Sit tight. We'll be back after this. Look, I want to add to and build on to that monologue, and I'm going to do it here in a minute in bouncing off another soundbite coming, but I've got to get to the phones. People have been waiting for the entire program. Let's start here in Las Vegas. Janet, hello.
Hello, Rush. It's such an honor and a privilege to speak with you.
Thank you very much. Same here.
Every time I hear you, I think, you get me. You get me. Rush, I am a long-time listener. I'm a long-time Nevada. My family has been here since 1895. I'm a multi-generational Republican. When my husband asked my father for my hand in marriage, my father's only question to him was, are you a Republican? That's how important the Republican Party has been to our family. My dad has an uncanny look to Ronald Reagan, and we always referred to him as Uncle Ronnie. He was part of our family. But I am fed up. I am so disgusted with our party, and I'm often embarrassed to say I'm a Republican. because of the way that the treatment they have had towards our nominee. And I have made the determination that it's a litmus test. I go and I find out if the man running is supporting our top man on the ticket. If he is, I vote for him. If he's not going to get my vote this year. I've had enough.
I know you're not alone. There's a whole lot of real frustration over this. This is why Trump cannot talk himself out of being supported. He just can't, because the people supporting him, the days of judging candidates the old way we're supposed to is out the window here. It's too dire. For many people in this country, this is it, and it's got to be stopped, this direction the country is headed. And the fact that somebody is standing up saying he plans to is enough for them. Look, I have to take a break here, folks, but I'm going to build on this when we get back here. You'll like it. Don't go away. Okay, let me grab a soundbite here and bounce off of this as I further expand on the whole notion of what people think is wrong and what the fight is about. And believe me, folks, this fight is exclusively about that the Republican Party has let down its primary supporters. By primary, I mean base. It has let them down. It has promised and not delivered. And the establishment, they're part of it, and they circle the wagons here, and they focus fire on Trump as degenerate, as a reprobate. And they fire all of these usual political weapons. They use every trick in their book, okay? He hates women, war on women. He's a racist. He's a sexist. He's a bigot. Republican base has heard this said about every nominee that we've nominated, and they know it is total BS every time it's thrown around. Mitt Romney was not a sexist or racist. He didn't hate women. He didn't hate animals. He didn't kill women, didn't do anything of the sort. Republicans didn't fight back. Republican base livid. Ditto George Bush. George Bush lied. People died. George Bush is Hitler. They could do books on assassinating George Bush. Republican voters know it's not true. George Bush, a fine man, may have been wrong on immigration, but he was not the reprobate that the Democrats make him out to be. But there was no pushback, no fighting back. Republican voters disappointed and let down again. And so it goes. And so everything they're throwing at Trump, every Republican voter has heard it said about every Republican nominee. They've been alive. There's not one thing new. They got rid of speakers of the House. They got rid of others by claiming women. Meanwhile, they, on the Democrat side, embrace and harbor their abusers and rapists. They lie about others. The female candidate for president on the Democrat side has attacked and bullied and threatened women who came forward, and the Republicans don't say so. Donald Trump does. The Republican base chooses Donald Trump. The Republican base knows that everything the Democrat Party alleges about our nominee is actually true about Democrat nominees. And they're fed up with having their candidate taken out of every race on bogus, malicious lies with no pushback. And that's why there's Donald Trump. And that's why all of these so-called women coming forward with all of these so-called stories of abuse is like battleship being sunk with a BB. You can't do it. It isn't going to happen. Republican voters have heard it their entire lives about every Republican nominee. And as far as they're concerned, it's about time this kind of crap stopped working. And as long as there is a nominee who wants to fight back on all of it, wherever the Democrats take it, they are going to support him. And that is what is happening. We've got polling data out. Hillary up 11, Hillary up 12, Hillary up 4. Take a look. She's not at 50% in any of them. But it's going to jack the Real Clear Politics average up for her, which is going to be the big news tonight or tomorrow. Republican voters are used to being depressed and dispirited. Well, they're used to the Democrats and the media trying to make them feel that way, and they're fed up with it. Every 2 years, every 4 years, it doesn't matter. whenever an effective it doesn't even have to be a candidate, any effective Republican anywhere, on television, on radio, it's the same stuff. The same way the Democrats use the same techniques to destroy anybody who is effective in opposing them. Republican voters see it. They're tired of it working. And so they're not going to let it work. Not this time. Because there's somebody who's not resigning because of it. He's fighting back. Every allegation, he throws it right back in their face. The experts say he's got to stick to the issues. He's got to get back. He can't keep answering these charges. Every charge, it's just going to be distracting. It's going to take him off focus. And yet he continues to hit back on every freaking charge, every allegation. He hits back, calls them a bunch of liars, tells everybody they're rigging the game. They're not used to this kind of pushback. They're used to being able to manipulate opposition candidates into doing what they tell them to do, like, you guys better support amnesty or you're never going to win the White House. Right. So the Republicans come out and support amnesty, and that's why none of them got the nomination in 2016, one of the many reasons. The Democrats come out and they say, you guys, if you ever want to win the White House again, like they care, you had better get right. On abortion, you'd better get right. On immigration, amnesty, you'd better get right. And the Republicans say, yeah, you're right. We are in danger of losing the Hispanics. So they do whatever the Democrats tell them to do, and they lose. And Republican voters are tired of seeing it. They're tired of supporting it. And given the first chance in a long time to not support it, they did. And that's Donald Trump. Here's the media's latest effort to poison the water, muddy the water, and keep us in the sewer and the gutter to which they have taken us. We have a montage of drive-bys and Democrats reacting to the horrible, the just untenable, the unacceptable allegation that the election is rigged by Donald Trump.
I read 65% of his followers already believe it is a rigged election. This is dangerous talk.
It's a destructive and dangerous thing to do, questioning important institutions, and it's very dangerous.
Is this wrong? It is dangerous rhetoric.
Trump is stirring up some really dangerous ideas in the electorate.
Some people would say that the rigged talk is dangerous.
Dangerous energy that is out there when people feel like the system is rigged.
It's very dangerous and irresponsible rhetoric.
Incredibly dangerous.
Dangerous to democracy.
Trump has been ramping up the rhetoric about how the election is rigged. How dangerous is this?
It's dangerous.
Feeling like this election is going to be rigged.
It's a dangerous strategy.
Isn't it amazing how every one of them has the same exact take? Well, how about the danger posed to the Constitution by the Democrat Party? How about the danger posed to the Constitution? They want to take Trump's comment that the election is rigged, and he's talking about the media being unfair. He's talking about 95% of the media being in the tank for the Democrats. He's talking about the powerful rigging things so that they don't lose their power. The powerful do this in every walk of life. He's treating this with the reality he thinks exists. They react in mock horror. Oh, my God, what's happening to our precious institution? You people who are destroying institution after institution are worried what Donald Trump is doing when he hasn't done anything. His fingerprints aren't on anything. You've destroyed the healthcare system. You've got open borders and destroyed the very makeup of this country. You want to attack the founding of this country and transform this country into things it was never intended to be. And you say that Trump poses a danger? Trump is the solution. Somebody like Trump is the solution. Somebody that's going to put the brakes on the real danger that we are already in. This is incredible to me. It's dangerous. Why, this is very dangerous. Why, the shocking attack on our institution. Shocking attack? What have you people done to marriage, for crying out loud? What are you doing to religion, for crying out loud? You attack virtually everything that identified this country in its traditional founding way. And Trump poses the danger? This is the American Republican base. isn't falling for this anymore. And as long as Trump keeps punching back, as long as Trump keeps fighting for what they believe, he's going to continue to get their support. They're not going to abandon him. And that's what all this is an attempt to shame people into abandoning Trump. Oh, look at the danger. Why, he's actually suggesting the election. The dead elected JFK, for crying out loud, in Chicago and West Virginia. What do you mean elections aren't rigged? Of course they are. What do you think early voting is all about, for crying out loud? Mr. Limbaugh, you're totally wrong about early voting. Early voting is for the disabled and disadvantaged and the people who can't vote on Election Day. No, that's not what it is, and you people know it. It is Election Day was defined as Election Day for one thing. There is no early Election Day till you people come along because you don't trust the outcome of elections unless you have a little hand in them. We all know what's going on here, and we've known for a long time. Look at the Florida recount in 2000. Look at what happened after the Supreme Court finally said, look, the recount's over. You've gone way above and beyond. They kept counting and counting and hanging chads until they could find a way to get Gore the presidency, and it was over. The Supreme Court shut it down, and they think the Supreme Court was rigged. When it was them and the Democrat Party who couldn't accept the will of the voters and the outcome of the state of Florida. Now, Andy McCarthy had a piece today. It has a piece at pjmedia.com. And I think it's a good rejoinder to this panic in the drive-by media over the danger posed to our traditions and institutions by Trump. You notice how the words of somebody are what's destructive to the Democrats? The actions they have taken in destroying or trying to destroy or alter or transform one institution after another. Real action, real change, real reversals. No, that's not dangerous. No, that's progress. Progress, Mr. Limbaugh. Trump poses the danger. Why? They're just words. He's threatening the integrity of the... You people will not even allow photo IDs for elections because you know it would end your ability to fraud people. How in the world is a photo ID racist? But they tell us it is. You need a photo ID to practically do anything except vote. And when you require a photo ID to vote, they tell you you're engaging in racism or sexism or suppression of voting rights. Suppression of voting rights? How many Democrat dead people vote multiple times every election? How many voter names have not been purged from the voter registration rolls over the years after they have passed away, still registered to vote? The bus goes to the corner. People are picked up. They're told, you're here, you're there, you're going to go vote. Go in, pull the lever here. They go do it. They're taken back home, usually to a slum. And the Democrats say, see you in 4 years. Thank you. They talk to us about Trump damaging the institution of elections by claiming it's rigged. Reacting just a little bit, it seems to me to be laughing at this if Trump was really the buffoon that he is instead of mock outrage. But these are the people who are not the protectors of tradition. They're not the protectors of institutions as they have been founded and formed. These are the people trying to transform them because they don't like the way America was founded. Look, I've talked myself through I got to take one more break, one more thing to say in all this, closing it out, then back to the phones. So don't go away. I'm also, in the next hour, I'm going to give Chris Wallace the questions he should ask Hillary. The questions that everybody wants answered, the questions everybody wants asked and that haven't been. I'm going to run through them in the monologue segment of the next hour. Andy McCarthy has a piece today. He's written a book called Faithless Execution about the whole notion of impeachment and how it's used, what it's for, what the requirements for it are, and laments the fact the Republicans have taken it off the table. He writes, and this is my response to these people claiming that Trump is posing a grave, grave threat to our country by claiming elections are rigged. Well, our system no longer is working. And the reason our system isn't working is because the Congress is AWOL. an increasingly irrelevant institution, Congress, that does not see itself as obliged to defend the Constitution, delegates its legislative tasks to the bureaucracy, over which the president has far more influence, punts tough calls to the judiciary, simultaneously refusing to exploit its constitutional authority over the court's jurisdiction in order to prevent or reverse judicial imperialism. In other words, a bunch of damage to this country has been done, and it could have been stopped using impeachment. They could have tried, but they take it off the table. They've removed it as an option. This is the Constitution's mechanism. We have a Constitution written by the founders that contains a mechanism to rein in a rogue or out-of-control president who is behaving extra-constitutionally, as this one is. So is the power of the purse. Deny the president the money for whatever it is he wants to do. And the Congress, Andy's point is they have abrogated their entire constitutional responsibility and the power they were granted under the separation of powers. Power of the purse is now a toothless check. In the last century, the federal government's most basic role has been transition from national security to social welfare, wealth redistribution, economic regulation. Congress is paralyzed by fear that any cutting off of funds will be portrayed as a denial of someone's entitlement or some other transfer payment. And then he goes on to describe how we don't even budget properly anymore. Everything's an omnibus. Everything's a continuing resolution. We don't even do budget responsibly anymore. The Congress's powers to thwart the abuse of presidential power are dispositive. There are two of them. If Congress refuses to use its authority to limit or cut off funding, the only remaining limitation is impeachment. If, in addition, Congress takes impeachment off the table, there's nothing left but a rogue president's subjective sense of what he or she can get away with politically. The same, obviously, is true of the president's subordinates. If, despite their lawlessness or incompetence, Congress maintains or increases their budgets and shrinks from impeaching them, then they are limited only by the whims of the rogue president they serve. His theory, the reason our system is not working is because Congress has abrogated its constitutional authority and power to rein in a rogue president. Well, we know why. The president's African American. And as such, they would be called racist or bigots or what have you. But the point is that there's nothing wrong with the system. It's just not being used. And Trump is not the problem. Trump, by claiming an election is rigged or is going to be rigged, and everybody knows what he means, by the way, by that, that doesn't constitute what threatens our country. What threatens our country is the Constitution is being ignored. The Constitution is being superseded. It's being ignored. That's the real problem. And the Republican base is fully aware of that, too. Be right back, my friends. Don't go away. By the way, folks, I seem to remember that in both the 2000 and 2004 elections, the Democrats accused the Republicans of election fraud in Ohio and Florida. But remember 2004, John Kerry came and said, if it weren't for 50,000 votes, I'd have won Ohio. They've accused Republicans of election fraud all the time, and they never have any wringing of their hands saying, oh my God, we're attacking a precious institution and tradition. Never. Greetings, welcome back. Great to have you. El Rushbo, executing assigned host duties flawlessly, zero mistakes. Kicking off a brand new week of broadcast excellence. Man, oh man. And over the weekend, Catherine Herridge at Fox had a story of a pay-for-play quid pro quo story involving the State Department and the FBI. And essentially it was that if you look the other way and all this Clinton email stuff, the FBI, they would give you plum overseas appointments. And then fast came the denials. Oh, no, they said, that's just not true. People, they're not understanding that. That didn't happen. Nobody ever got any appointment. Nobody ever said anybody did. What they said was it was offered. It was talked about. And if all it has to be is discussed and talked about for there to be near criminal activity, they'd have to follow through on it here. So what we're finding as more and more comes out is that there was collusion between the Clinton campaign and the FBI and the State Department, DOJ rather, on these emails, and it was never, ever going to be a prosecution, primarily because Obama was using an alias and was chatting with Hillary on her server while lying to the American people. He claimed he didn't know about it till he read about it in the news, but he did know about it, and he was using her server under an alias. And when the story was about to break, there's all kinds of stuff flashing today. We're learning in an email thread from the WikiLeaks dump that the Clinton campaign was working with State over this Benghazi story. And basically what they engineered, they got hold of a friendly AP reporter, and he's named in the email, to plant a narrative on Benghazi before the congressional hearings began, so as to create an entirely different story before members of the committee actually knew anything for sure about Benghazi and who had asked for help and what Clinton's status was and where she was. I mean, the fix is in on all of this in so many different ways. Now you've got the allegation that the FBI was being offered, agents are being offered various plum assignments if they would look the other way on this thing. I think it's close to what this is. It's just, and people denying it left and right too, but it's not going away. But you won't see it in the mainstream media. You won't see any of this discussed in the mainstream media. You'll only see it in what we call the new media, conservative media opposition, but it's out there. And it's the kind of thing that the media, if they don't report it, it didn't happen. And if it didn't happen, then nobody knows about it. Except the problem is a lot of people are learning about these things. And as much criticism as there is for social media and the sewer that it is, it still exists as a pipeline to inform people of things they're not learning elsewhere. Trump has 27 million followers. He can put any story on Facebook or Twitter that he wants and give it a life. And he's doing that. And, of course, they're not factoring any of that. The arrogance and conceit of media people is if they don't talk about it, it didn't happen. And if it didn't happen, nobody knows about it. And they go through the busy broadcast day and the busy news day with that attitude. And yet people are hearing and learning things that they are not reporting. Now, it's not nearly enough. I mean, a lot of the WikiLeaks email dump, I don't know how much of that has reached the general population. We just don't know. That's why it's so many question marks about all of this, and we're not going to know until Election Day. And I don't think anybody really does. The pollsters, I think there's enough in this campaign that's unprecedented, and therefore you can't factor it in, you can't poll it, you can't get actual confident data on a lot of it. So again, it's what this has always been. You have on the political side with the real top 1% that everybody needs to be concerned about, and that's the media and the Democratic establishment has some Republicans in it, and certain Wall Street banks. That is the 1% that everybody needs to be worried about. And these people are running this campaign as they always have. They have their handbook, their blue book, and there are plays that they execute how they want. But they're up against somebody about whom it may not apply. Trump's an outsider. He doesn't have political fingerprints, political record. He doesn't have – they can't tie him to any failing policy, for example. They can't tie him to any Republican action. So all they can do is claim he's the usual average everyday Republican, which is racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, and now abuser. And that's it. And so we're long way of saying we really don't know how things are shaking out. We really don't. We don't know what impact all this is having on a large group of Americans who generally don't vote. What if they decide to this year? You realize half the eligible voters in this country don't? That's why the left's always wringing its hands about, democracy is threatened. Look at how little our public is participating. We need more participation. And then when we get more participation, they start bitching about that. Is there too much democracy going on? Is there too much information that people have? Is it too confusing out there? So no matter what happens, if it goes against the grain of what they want, it's a threat, it's a problem. And we'll just have to see. Now, a couple things I got to do here, and then we're going to get back to your calls. I said I had some questions for Hillary Clinton that I would love to hear asked. And if I ever had the chance, she would never appear on this program, and I would never be invited to be a moderator. But if either happened, I have a list of questions here. And they're not complicated. They just haven't been asked. Mrs. Clinton, when you were Secretary of State, why did you let a Russian company purchase 1/2 of the United States uranium reserves in coordination with your and your husband's foundation? How much money was donated by Russian companies to your foundation in exchange for your moving half of our uranium supply to Kazakhstan? Mrs. Clinton, when you worked for the State Department, how did you conduct secret classified business without using a secure email server? And don't say it's a mistake that you won't do again, because you still had to conduct business. How did you conduct secret classified business on your public server? What kind of assault weapons were we funneling through Benghazi, and where were we sending them before Ambassador Stevens was murdered? Mrs. Clinton, why were you interested in the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad in Syria? Mrs. Clinton, when you left the White House after your husband's last term as president in the year 2000, why did you steal $200,000 worth of furniture and china and artwork that you were forced to return? Mrs. Clinton, when you were Secretary of State, why did you solicit contributions from foreign governments to your family foundation after you promised President Obama you would not? Mrs. Clinton, why do you and your husband claim to contribute millions of dollars to charity for a tax write-off when it goes to your family foundation that gives less than 15% of the money you collect? And you use the balance to support yourself tax-free. How do you do that? How could other Americans set up similar arrangements as you have? What would you tell them? Mrs. Clinton, why are you unable to account for $6 billion of State Department money that seemed to have disappeared while you were Secretary of State? Mrs. Clinton, you said you were broke when you left the White House, but you purchased a $2 million home. You built an addition for the Secret Service. You charged taxpayers of the United States rent in an amount equal to the entire mortgage. Why did you say you were broke? Mrs. Clinton, how is it your daughter Chelsea can afford to buy a $10.5 million apartment in New York City after you left the White House when you were broke? I might throw that one out. I might leave out the question about the daughter. Mrs. Clinton, Mrs. Clinton, could you tell the average American how their child could get a $600,000 a year job at NBC with no experience like your daughter did? That's a better one, right? That's a better one. Yeah, because at 10.6, that comes from the Ms. Vinskys. You know, so she married it. So, but yeah, the $600,000 a year, and not having done it before. Mrs. Clinton, why did you lie to the American people about the terror attack in Benghazi, but you managed to tell the truth to your daughter the same night that it happened? Mrs. Clinton, why did you lose, or why did you fail the bar exam in the District of Columbia? Why did your husband lose his law license? Take your time, Mrs. Clinton. We're here for a couple of hours. I mean, this is just scraping the surface. I mean, there's all kinds of other things that could ask. But these are the kinds of things that are asked of Trump that are not asked of her, is my point. Okay, do that. Mrs. Clinton, for the past 2 weeks, we have been treated to accounts of Donald Trump and his supposedly abusive treatment of women, many of whom have now been exposed as not having told the truth. Why did you feel it necessary to tarnish the reputations of women who had alleged that your husband had abused them, and in one case, raped them? Tell us about the Bimbo Eruptions unit that helped your husband survive as president. I mean, any number of ways you could go with this. That, Trump is routinely asked about that she's not. That's the point that I'm trying to make. I mean, the questions, they're not specific here. They're generic just to indicate there are all kinds of places, all kinds of areas that the moderators are not going with Mrs. Clinton. No, I wouldn't ask her what her relationship is with Huma. No, I wouldn't touch on that. That's inside stuff. I don't think the vast majority of people even know who Huma is, and so I would leave Huma alone. I might express condolences. Would you pass on my sincere feelings for Mrs. Danger over the embarrassment of her husband and sending pictures of his nakedness to teenagers? It's a terrible thing, and we feel for. Would you pass that on for us? Thank you. Nah. Look, I'm trying to keep this above board here. This is. See how with the Clintons, you see how easy it is to get to the gutter if you want to go there. Now, I mentioned also earlier that there is a story at thehill.com. Lane Filler is the writer. Donald Trump looks different when you see him. So we have a writer here for The Hill who went to a Trump rally who was expecting to see a bunch of people from Deliverance missing their 2 front teeth, drinking cans of 3-year-old beer unchilled, hunting caps on, pickup trucks in the parking lot, gun racks in the back window. People that say, "Get for getting yours," and see a journalist and start shouting epithets. And it turned out that this reporter didn't see anything that he expected to see. Donald Trump looks different when you see him in person. This guy's a member of the Newsday editorial. I said The Hill. It's Newsday, the Long Island newspaper. He's a member of the Newsday editorial board. Trump estimated the crowd at 7,000. New Hampshire police said it was closer to 3,000, and there wasn't a whit of deplorable behavior. No racism, no sexism, no xenophobia, not even any nasty T-shirts. Nor was there a surly or aggrieved mood coursing through the pack. Trump supporters were upbeat, and they were there to have a good time. What inspired the 300-mile drive Friday night from Long Island toward a noon rally up north was the sense that after a week of Access Hollywood tape replays and sexual assault allegations, Trump might finally be ready to completely blow his stack, start roaring and foaming and biting the heads off of members of the media. So I wanted to go up and see it. What transpired was foundationally different. Most of Trump's speech focused on specific problems facing the people of New Hampshire and the United States and the steps a Trump administration would take to address them. Trump spoke at length about the opiate addiction ravaging New Hampshire. He called for lifting the limit on prescriptions for medication-assisted treatment drugs that doctors can write, an important, intricate fix. He also decried the way Chinese drug manufacturers are moving deadly fentanyl into and around the U.S. But at the root of the rally was the kernel of an idea that made his campaign catch fire when few thought that it would. It's not going well for you in terms of jobs, addiction, security, family structure, retirement, or your feelings about the future. And it's not your fault. Trump told them the people in power don't care and, in fact, have benefited from the situation. None of the politics as usual people from either party, having caused the trouble or allowed it to happen, can be trusted to fix it. He said that was the message at the Trump rally. He said, well, you heard. There weren't any rabble-rousers. There weren't any insulting shouts. There weren't any bad behavior at all. So you have and this is your average Trump rally. Oh, the O'Keefe, James O'Keefe, the latest video. He claims to have proof that all of the unrest and protests and dangerous activity at Trump rallies has been committed by Democrats and Hillary supporters. Anyway, another timeout, obscene profit break, and we will go back to the phones when we get back. Mrs. Clinton, you made $21 million in 2 years giving speeches to, among others, Wall Street banks, often at $250,000 per 30-minute speech, and in some cases, $350,000. Why is Wall Street the problem, and why are you in such close relationships with Wall Street, and what are they expecting for what they paid you? Somehow get the question out there, tie her to the close relationships she has with Wall Street, while her voters think that she's out to destroy Wall Street. Some of the WikiLeaks document dumps indicate how close she is to these bankers. Lloyd Blankfein at Goldman Sachs, just one example. Here's Ellen in Falls Church, Virginia. Glad you waited. I really appreciate it. How are you doing?
Well, thank you for taking my call. Listen, Rush, I have this theory that there's going to be an October surprise of a different sort, and that is I'm a self-employed person who got a letter on Friday telling me my health insurance premium is going to increase by $1,082 per month. It has already doubled since the Affordable Care Act was put into place, and my deductible went from $2,500 a person to $6,000. But now my insurance premiums are practically going to double effective January 1st. And if enough people like me, self-employed or small business owners, get letters like this, there is just no way you can support the continuation of a policy that is, it's not going to bankrupt me, but it is seriously going to impact our standard of living.
Yeah, but you are going to be outnumbered by the people who do not have small businesses. I mean, you're in a minority of people, and the insurance rates for Obama are skyrocketing. It's imploding. Everybody knows it. Here's the. I wish what you say is true, and I hope it ends up being true. My experience has been that the public does not associate Obama with Obamacare. He shouldn't be at 55% approval alone, given where Obamacare is. They end up blaming the insurance companies. It's the insurance company's fault, these prices, because not Obama's trying. He's really trying, but these evil forces just will not help him. Expanding on what Ellen in Falls Church, Virginia just said, our last caller. She's a small business owner. She's getting letters acknowledging that the premium and deductibles are skyrocketing on her Obamacare policy. Individuals are getting these letters, too. And in some cases, like I read the example of a family in Minnesota. I think they're farm family. Not sure about that. But anyway, their monthly, are you ready for this? The monthly, this is incredible, for the family, monthly premium costs are $40,000. I think I guess, wait a minute, it sounds more like yearly. And the deductible is $13,000 per person. I mean, it's they can't afford it. And even if they could afford the premiums, they would never trigger the coverage because the deductible is like $13,000 to $14,000. Now, the point is people are getting these letters. Not just small business owners. Individuals are getting these letters acknowledging the cost. Look, this is the sad thing. It's by design. Obamacare is supposed to fail, and it's supposed to fail in a way that people perceive the insurance companies being at fault. Not Obama. Remember now, there's the Limbaugh theorem, which explains why Obama hasn't been held accountable for anything that's gone wrong, from the economy to the stimulus not mattering to the international foreign policy of this country. We're in more wars under Obama than we ever were under George W. Bush. And in almost every instance, it's because of Bush. The economy, if you listen to the Democrats, the economy, we still are feeling the effects of the Bush financial collapse in 2008. Poor Obama, man, he's tried so hard. He's worked so hard. He's done more than anybody could have possibly done. It was so bad, it was worse than anybody knew. And it's just going to take a lot longer. And that's how Hillary gets away with running against the economy. It's still Bush's fault. I mean, look at folks. Obama's sitting there with a 55% approval. So whatever you hope about all this stuff attaching itself to him is not happening. In the case of Obamacare, these rising premiums and deductibles, insurance companies. Typical, unfeeling, hatred, Citizen United type big corporations, which are not people. Corporations don't cry. Corporations don't bleed. Companies are not people. It's just evil. They kill people. They're not people. They kill their customers, and they don't care. But they're not people. And Obama is perceived as just this one guy trying so hard to reverse this, when in truth, everything that's going wrong in healthcare is the result of Democrat Party implemented policy. This is the thing that frustrates me about millennials. I've mentioned this before, and I know it's being redundant to say it, but here you have these millennials graduating college or have graduated. They are saddled with student loan debt that's going to take, in some cases, over 10 years or more to repay. While that's going on, there aren't any career path openings. The job market is woefully inadequate. There are all kinds of part-time jobs available. That's what people want to fill for because of Obamacare. But being able to start out your course on a career, it's not there. It's not happening. We don't have a robust and vibrant and growing economy. And the young people facing this do not blame. Not only do they not blame Obama, they don't blame government. They just think it's a confluence of events that happen to occur at the time they reached adulthood. It's just an accident of fate. You can't convince them that their circumstances are the direct result of implemented Democrat Party policy. Now, again, I'm going to tell you one of the reasons why, and it's more complicated than this, but one of the reasons why is the opposition political party has not tried to make that case. The opposition political party has not been much of an opposition. They have been silenced by virtue of Obama's race. They've been neutered. And so it's the first election in my life. This is really true, folks. To show you how different things are and how you can't playbook and blue book this stuff. Snurdly, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, there may be an exception here, but I can't think of it. This is the first election in my life where the economy is not even a factor in the election. If it were, Hillary Clinton would be in deep doo-doo because this is her party that did this. And people associated not just the president, but his party and the economy. The back pocket, kitchen table issues were always the issues that dominated and determined electoral outcome. But this one doesn't. And there are a lot of other issues like that that used to matter a lot that don't seem to. And so people on the Republican side who've been thinking, well, we got a great chance here because the economy's in a tank, and the Democrats have been known that people are not associating Obama or the Democrats with even his name's on the thing, Obamacare, and they still don't blame him. He's still seen as this valiant social justice warrior doing everything he can to get even with these evil companies that are trying to kill their customers. Deny their customers medicine, deny their customers food, deny their customers water, whatever it is. And back to the phones we go. This is Teresa in Vienna, Illinois. I'm glad you called. It's great to have you on the program today. Hi.
Well, hey, Rush. Thank you very much for taking my call. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you today.
Thank you.
With my position, I get to travel extensively, and I get to meet a plethora of people, whether it be people that have learned through the hard knocks of life or the very well-educated that are the scientists. And the one thing that I have noticed, and I've been on numerous universities and around 12 states this summer, there is not the Hillary for President rush like there was when Obama was running. There's not this impetus. And there are numerous people out there that refuse or are afraid to say that they support Trump because of how they would be perceived by other people, being called racist, bigot, whatever, because of their lack of ingenuity or wanting to be able to say what they really want to say, I guess.
Well, this has been one of the curious anomalies that I have been tracking and following throughout the duration of the campaign. There is no energy for Hillary Clinton out there. There is no organic excitement for Hillary Clinton. There is for Donald Trump. You know these bumper stickers that we have at the EIB store, the Never Hillary bumper stickers? I have sent supplies of these to friends I know all across the fruited plain. And everybody wants one, but they are afraid to put it on their car because they are afraid of vandalism or somehow otherwise being pointed out or called out. Point is, there's a lot of Trump support that doesn't want to admit it, like she's saying. But again, this is all anecdotal. Polling data doesn't reflect any of this. Folks, the polling data today, we've got 3. Washington Post, ABC, Hillary up 4. Monmouth, Hillary up 11. And what is the other one that's out today? I forget. There's one that has her up 12. So up 12, up 11, up 4. None of that is reflected in what we see. Well, I take that back. We see it in media coverage. If all we knew was what we see in the drive-by media, why we would think Trump is about to be humiliated and embarrassed, maybe get 10% of the vote. But in terms of watching the American people, there isn't any excitement for Hillary. There's no demand from people to see her. She's now in the midst of 5 days or 6 days off, supposedly studying for the debate. John Podesta, by the way, was it Podesta? No, David Axelrod thinks that she should just broom it. Don't even do it. There's nothing to gain. She's got the election in the bag. There's no reason to do this debate. She really ought to think about backing out. But I've noticed what you've noticed. She can't draw flies to any of her rallies. They look like nothing compared to a Trump rally. This is one of the confusing things. This is why people... It's one thing, you see all of these Trump rallies, and they're overflowing, and they're energetic, and the people have unquestionable enthusiasm. And then you see a Hillary rally, you see 300 people, 500 people. You don't see any organic excitement, no thrills, nothing. Then you see the polling data and you wonder, how does this work? How does it explain? And it's not unique. This kind of thing has happened before. The polls have been right. You understand New York and California, for example, are gone. They're Democrat states. Those electoral votes are gone. Just whoever runs that has a D next to their name is going to win. They don't have to be stars. They don't have to be exciting. They don't have to be charismatic at all. You just need the D by your name. And that's what she has going for her. I understand it's frustrating. And it doesn't seem to jibe with what you see. The polling data doesn't jibe. That's why we don't know until we're going to know. It's that simple. Okay, folks, that's it. We're off to a rocking start for this exciting and busy broadcast week. As always, I really appreciate you being here. I thank you more than you can possibly know. And I attribute so much of this program's success to me and your desire to listen to me. I'm just kidding, folks. I'm just thrilled here that you're here every day. It's exciting, and I look forward to it each day as I am tomorrow. So you hang in. It'll be 21 hours before we know it, starting all over again. See you then.